Let's do a quick review of what we did last time. So if I had a right triangle that was labeled like this, whoa, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted that to be a 5. So, what is the cosine of B? So we look at angle B. With reference to B, what is the name of that side? What was the name we used for next to? Adjacent. So this is the adjacent side, and what is this side's name? Opposite. It's the one that doesn't touch B, and then this one is always the hypotenuse. So what is the cosine of B? According to SOHCAHTOA, cosine is the A divided by the H. So the A divided by the H is 4 over 5. Any questions there? Okay. What is the tangent of A? Well, if I switch to A, then this becomes the adjacent, and this becomes the opposite. Do you guys get that? So what is the tangent of A? 4 over 3. So 4 over 3. What is the sine of B? So we look at angle B. What is the O side for B? That's 3. And the H side is 5. Okay? All right. Let's draw another triangle. Let's say this was 20 degrees, and this is 10. Okay? Trigonometry allows us to find missing sides or angles in a triangle if we have enough information. So in this case, I know it's a right triangle, and I know one of the base angles is 20 degrees, and I know that the hypotenuse is 10. So I'm going to call this X, and I'm going to call this Y. What trig ratio would use those if this is my angle? What is the name of the X side? Adjacent, opposite, or hypotenuse? That is the adjacent side. What about 10? What side is that? That's the hypotenuse. So which trig ratio uses A and H? Cosine. Now this is a little bit tricky, so pay close attention. If you don't understand, don't let me move on until you get this. So I'm going to choose cosine. I chose cosine because I'm looking for the A side and I know the H side. So I'm going to write the cosine of the angle, and I happen to know that the angle is 20 degrees, is equal to the adjacent side, which is labeled X, over the hypotenuse, which is labeled 10. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, what is holding the X and the 10 together? Division. So how do I undo that? I multiply by 10. Okay. So I put a 10 over here, and I get X is equal to 10 cosine of 20. So I pull up my calculator, and I just type in 10 cosine of 20, and it will tell me that X is 9.4. Okay, so let's look at the other side. What ratio would I pick to use those? What ratio is going to use the Y and the 10? Oh, thank you. Well, what is the name of the Y side? With reference to 20. So if this is my angle, what is the name of this side? Opposite. And what is the name of this side? Hypotenuse. So I need to choose the one that uses O and H. That would be sine. So I write it out. the sine of 20 is y over 10. And then how do I move the 10 to the other side? Multiply. So the answer is just going to be 10 sine of 20. And that's 3.4. Okay. So let's do another one. Okay, let's focus on x. So I have to have one known side and an unknown side. So what ratio is going to use the x and the 5? That would be O and A, so that's tangent. So the tangent of 40 is x over 5, and then I just multiply by 5. Okay, so 5 tangent of 40, and that tells me this side is going to be 4.2. Okay, now half the time you do this, you're going to get a problem that looks like that. You set it up and then you just multiply by the denominator. But half the time it's going to look a little bit differently. What ratio will I use here? The A side and the H side. Cosine. So this one's going to look a little bit different. Cosine of 40 is 5 over y. Do you see how that's different? Every problem we've done so far had something like y over 5. But in this case, the variable's on the bottom. So I'm going to refer to these as multiply problems. And then to solve this, we're going to do a switch. You just switch places with those. So that becomes y equals 5 over the cosine of 40. So every one of the problems you're going to do today is either going to be a multiply problem or a switch problem. So I plug that in my calculator. 5 divided by the cosine of 40, and I get 6.5. So if you get x over 5, it's a multiply. If you get 5 over x, it's a switch. So they come from here. The O divided by the H, or the A divided by the H, or the O divided by the A. So you just have to follow SOHCAHTOA, and then you either multiply or switch. All right, so let's do another one. Okay, which trig ratio do I have to pick? Well, what is the name of this side? Opposite. And what is the name of this side? Hypotenuse. Which ratio uses O and H? Sine. So the sine of 60 is O, which is 6, over H, which is X. Is that a multiply or a switch? So we switch places with those. X equals 6 over the sine of 60. And then I would just plug that in my calculator. Does that make sense? Okay. Which ratio am I going to choose here? Tangent. So this is the A side and this is the O side. Tangent is the only one that uses O and A. So we write the tangent of 45 degrees equals 5 over x. Is that a multiply or a switch problem? So we switch places with those. X is 5 over the tangent of 45. Okay, do you need to see more? You guys get it? Yeah? All right, so your assignment is called 4.5A worksheet. Oh, but it's